it was my idea to have the music be the signal of the beginning and the ending of the show, but I forgot. We're on now. So I was asking people earlier whether you had anything you want to say to us about the public access, about pastoral care, about the department, about David's retiring, my retiring years ago. Do you have any comments you would like to make?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I want to thank you for inviting me back. I haven't been here for a while, and I know that you were out for a while. I'm glad that you're back out on the air and up and about.
Thank you, Josh.
Good to see you. It's interesting. When I came to town, you were the chaplain at the hospital, the head chaplain.
Mm-hmm.
And then Father David came, and now he's retiring, moving to a parish. I was wondering if you have any sense of the change in the culture of the hospital over all of these years, and the role of pastoral care at the hospital. Are you enough in touch with what's going on with the hospital now?
To some degree.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Has it changed?
It has changed in that it's more an operational entity now. Here at the hospital in pastoral care, it's more a part of the system of the hospital. It's not just an
accessory.
An accessory. Thank you, Josh.
You think that the role of spirituality and healing has greater acceptance today than 15, 20 years ago?
Absolutely, it does. I don't know why that's happened, but it's happened. And people are much more accepting of pastoral care.
Well, I think that it's kind of an irony, as the numbers of people who identify with organized religion has declined, certainly in the mainstream, the numbers of people who think of themselves as spiritual has increased. I think as we've gone through modernity and come out the other side of industrialization, people have been left with a sense of the limits of the mind, the limits of logic, and the need for answers of the affect that lead us into spirituality. I sense that in the hospital when I visit.
You say that very well, Josh. Our special guest here is Josh Chasen. He's a very informed, well-spoken rabbi from the community, and he's been associated with the hospital for years and years and years and years, and he has a great insight into what's happening, and he speaks frankly and openly. And Josh, thank you for coming.
Good to be here.
Yeah.
Good to be here. Good to be here at a time when healthcare itself is very much in the public mind, not only in Washington, but also in Montpelier.
Mm-hmm.
A number of us within the religious community have been very concerned about the progress of bills both in Congress and in the state legislature. In Congress, the failure, God forbid, of the president's effort to get a health care bill through, even a compromised one, would represent a major setback in our understanding of our responsibility to each other, not only as citizens, but also as neighbors, friends here in the United States. And the same goes true with what's going on in Montpelier. I'm afraid that if we don't get some handle on the cost of health care, it's going to continue to make it difficult not only for individuals in Vermont, but as we saw in the paper this morning, Burton's Snowboards is transferring 40 some odd jobs out of Burlington to Europe and to China, and one of the reasons is the cost of health care.
Wow.
So when we talk about a single payer system, we're really not talking about socialism. We're talking about cost containment, finding some way to contain the costs so that it's possible for people of moderate means and certainly people with low income to avail themselves of health care and for businesses to stay in the state. These are issues that affect our relationships with each other and define our culture here in Vermont. If we claim that Vermont, if we want to claim that Vermont is as sweet a place to live as we want usually to claim, we have to face up to the reality that literally people are dying because they don't have access to health care.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that these efforts, both in Congress and in the State House, are running into opposition is a matter of great concern, I believe, for all of us.
As always, Josh, you speak very knowledgeably and very well, and you clarified the issues, and I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
You speak better than most people speak in the corporate world.
Unfortunately, not enough people in the legislatures are listening. Why is it, you think? Why is it so hard? Why do so many people vote against their own interests when it comes to this?
Because they think it's an optional entity, a religion. It's not an essential.
Healthcare.
Yeah.
Healthcare is, as the campaign of the Vermont Worker Center's theme goes, healthcare is a human right. It's not only a human right. I mean, our understanding of it as a human right comes from the founding in Scripture that every one of us is created in the image of God. So we can feel like we have good health care. We can feel like we have, and health care in Vermont is relatively good health care, certainly relative to the rest of the world and even to the rest of the United States. But it's not universally accessible or universally affordable, so that there are some people created just as much in the image of God as we are, who are going without. And that strikes me as a real threat, not only to our own sense of our own decency, but it's a threat to the democratic structure of our society. When some people have so much money and some people have so little money, democracy itself is challenged. It was the genius of Franklin Roosevelt to know that and to be able to speak to enough people in the business community to be able to make the changes that he made with the help of many others in the 1930s. My prayer is that President Obama will find a strong enough coalition to put something through at the federal level.
Absolutely, I would agree with you.
And if at the federal level they don't create something that contains the costs through some kind of single payer, then I hope that we will have the opportunity in Vermont to take the lead and do a demonstration project here in Vermont to show the rest of the country that this is not some radical idea. This is something that's going to save us economically, socially, politically, spiritually.
That's well said. It would be neat if we could be a demonstrative model for the whole country.
Well, I hope that some of your listeners will call their representatives in the State House, in the State Senate, and in the House of Representatives, because there are bills now floating around which are going to go through a process of change. The situation is somewhat fluid, and it'd be nice not to have to wait, as we used to say in Brooklyn about the Dodgers, to wait till next year. We've been waiting till next year for quite a few years when it comes to this.
It's well said. It's well said. One reason why people have dropped the name of religion, they're talking about spiritual life or spiritual issues, but they are avoiding anything to do with an actual religious focus, like Baptists or Methodists or Jews. They're doing that because they want to avoid taking sides. They want to avoid favoring one religious group over another.
Well, that's problematic because there are people in the society who identify themselves as religious, who are still within the old mindset of their religion being the only religion.
Mm-hmm.
I would call folks who are fundamentalists, who believe that their way is the one way, and you know, every group has them.
Oh, yes.
Every group has them, not just Jews and Christians and Muslims. I remember being at a program in town at which a Buddhist teacher spoke, and somebody asked him from India, I believe, and somebody asked him a question to try to highlight the fact that Buddhism was not ever triumphal in that sense of thinking it was the best way. And after the question was translated for this gentleman, he answered, and he essentially said that he believed that Buddhism was the best way. So that's a disease that affects potentially all of us. And that's what gives religion and religion organizations a bad name. But if we leave religion to the people who think that they have the only truth, then I think we give up on a force for good in the society that has the potential to keep us morally balanced and to undergird the democracy. The support of mainstream religious organizations is crucial not only to those organizations themselves, but it's crucial to sustenance of democracy. It's a trial for democracy when mainstream religious groups are under-supported by their own members. We live in a time of great transition, and I suspect as goes the religious middle will go the democracy, because the democracy depends upon, going way back to the founders, democracy depends upon voluntary association. And the original voluntary associations were the churches in America, and the churches and synagogues and mosques and temples now. And so we'll see. We'll see. Clearly, the big money at this point is invested in the interests of large corporations who now, with the permission of the Supreme Court, will be able to manipulate elections to our state legislatures and to Congress and for the presidency. If the middle doesn't hold, we're in a lot of trouble.
That's true. That's true.
And of course, the middle is badly divided over some issues that tend to keep us from generating enough power together. Abortion, the right of a woman to choose, the right of the unborn, as seen by both sides as rights, keeps people of goodwill separated. We're seeing that with the health care bill in Washington. The right to bear arms keeps us divided. We claim, we profess to be united when we pledge allegiance to the flag. I'm afraid that the only folks right now who are truly united are the folks who want to keep this economy going so that they can keep making big money.
I think you're right. It's not a simple world.
It's a bit of a scary world. It's a bit of a scary world. We on Monday night was on the Hebrew calendar the anniversary of the death in Iraq of Mark Evnin.
Mark who?
Mark Evnin, Rabbi Wall's grandson.
Oh, yes.
Who was killed on April 3rd, 2003. On the Hebrew calendar, it was celebrated Monday night. It is 7 years since that war began. And while we seem to be trying to get out of Iraq, there seems no end to what's going on in Afghanistan. And this is a war that seems to be on the minds and hearts of only those who have children and parents, brothers and sisters over there. It's unlike World War II, where the whole society understood that this was an effort of the country as a whole. We're asking a few people to make ultimate sacrifices. And we're also bankrupting the nation's treasury so that all of our grandchildren are going to inherit a world that's very different from the level of affluence that we have known in the decades following World War II.
I wonder if many people know that Rabbi Wall, his grandson, I guess it was one of the first people to die in Iraq, fighting for the United States.
Yeah, well, you know, in 2003, there were many people there for the memorial service. I'll never forget when the funeral procession went by South Burlington High School, all of the kids out there, kids with lacrosse sticks and just boys and girls, high school kids crying. 7 years later, there were far fewer people aware, except for the families of those recently killed or wounded. It says something about the kind of society we live in. You know, Elie Wiesel, when he's asked to speak about the opposite of goodness, he speaks less about evil than he does about apathy and the role of the bystander in allowing all of this to happen. There was a tremendous surge of goodwill and good acts after the earthquake in Haiti. But these are episodic events in the culture. The greed in the culture continues unabated. And the leadership, that potential leadership of Barack Obama has been hobbled by the hatred that's out there for him, which is fairly undisguised racism. Mm-hmm. One worries about a country in which such expressions of racism can come out of the closet. Here we are in 2010. We have elected an African American as president, and yet the old racist bigotry is still at large, far more than is being acknowledged in the mainstream press. It raises a flag of great concern. Perhaps FDR could generate the force to help lead us in an effort to bail the capitalists out, because he not only was a white man, but he was a Roosevelt. He came from that class. Indeed, they called him a traitor to their class. Barack Obama needs more support from us because he's not coming from inside the old elites. And it remains to be seen whether we're able to generate enough support for his efforts, basically to save American capitalism. In the absence of that, we're headed for the streets. We're headed for the streets.
What do you mean, Josh?
I mean, for street demonstrations, for street protests. The right wing is already in the streets with the Tea Parties. And we could get to a place where we have a political situation that echoes that of the 1930s in Europe, where you have both the left and the right in the street. It will be very ugly and very violent. The right wing is very armed, much better armed than the left. But the prospect of anger building up on the left and the right to the point of the kind of violence that we saw in the streets in the 1960s and before that in the 1930s is not one that we can look forward to. I fear for the world in which my children will come of age into.
We're in trouble, in other words.
I think we're in big trouble.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're out of the woods necessarily on the economy.
No.
Can we do? What can we do?
What can we do?
Good question.
We have to, now that baseball's coming back, it's spring. It may be trite to say, but we have to step up to the plate. We need some action in the state legislature. We need a governor who is going to lead and not going to keep the brakes on. Thank God the legislature passed a couple of bills last session into law over the governor's veto. We need some political leadership that will take some risks, that will take the moral high ground. I think we have that in Barack Obama. I think he's doing the best he can. I'm not one of those who supported him and now are saying that he's bailed out on us. I think he's doing the best he can. I have a friend who always cautions me to be careful about making judgments about the people on the front stage. I think we need to call a spade a spade. I think we need a governor who will not block a healthcare reform that will save the lives of people. And we need a legislature that will pass effective healthcare reform. I think members of Congress who will lose their jobs if they vote for healthcare reform need to sacrifice their jobs and vote for healthcare reform. These issues are bigger than any one of us.
Why does health care reform become so immense a situation and problem?
Because so much money is involved. It's such a big part of the economy.
Okay.
It's such a big part of the economy. I mean, the hospital, since I came to town in '91, when you were chaplain at the hospital has grown.
Oh, yes.
I mean, look at the physical construction at the hospital. The hospital has grown, and the whole healthcare sector of the economy has grown. Throw in the stake in the economy that the pharmaceutical industry has, and we're talking about billions of dollars. And when you talk about the health insurers, we're talking about a loss of control of a lot of money by particular interests. And that doesn't come easily. People tend to cling to their money, especially when they've been making a killing on it. And so I hope that we'll be able to elect and retain public officials who will be able to lead us here. If we don't, then maybe we have to push harder. Maybe we have to push harder. Civil rights required militant nonviolent action. Perhaps there needs to be the revival of a movement for social democracy in this country. That's what the Democratic Party used to represent. Hopefully it will continue to represent that. The Republicans, where are the liberal Republicans who we knew so well in this state? I mean, where are the Governor Snellings who would pass a tax increase to get us through tough times? Where are the George Akins, the old Gibson Republicans who knew that Vermonters really did care for each other and would not only literally pull each other's tractors out of the mud, but would help each other. Where is that Vermont? Where is that sense of commonwealth in the rest of this country? It's time for that kind of politics to resurface, and so the answer may be around the corner if our elected officials can't pass legislation for which there is a crying need, not only a crying moral need, but a crying economic need. Then maybe we need to speak a little stronger. The problem with that now is that you have this kind of anger on both the right and the left, and so the need for maintaining civil discourse it becomes very great. But what do you do when our legislatures don't represent the crying need of the people? What do? You have to speak truth to power. That's what Martin Luther King taught us. We have to speak truth to power. How we do that remains to be seen.
There was a time at the end of World War II that there were a lot of children who were going down the tube, who were being attacked and imprisoned and misused, and we were upset about it, and we did things. We took a position, and we asked our public to support the needs of these kids. We don't do that kind of request anymore.
No, we're taking that support away. We're taking away support here in Vermont. We're taking away support for people with disabilities, mm-hmm. with physical disabilities, with mental disabilities. We're going in the opposite direction now. Many states across the country are going broke. I mean, if California is the future, as they usually say, I mean, California is in big financial trouble.
Why is that?
Why is that? Because starting in 1980, well, I would say for a couple of reasons. For one, starting in 1980, when President Reagan so affably introduced supply-side economics, the federal commitment to the social welfare began to be dismantled. And the amount of federal money coming to local areas began to decrease. And now we're reaping what was sowed back in the early 80s when capitalism was set free to allow the market to function, and what effectively happened was that the rich got very rich and the poor got very poor. That's part of it. Part of it is worldwide. I mean, part of it is the rest of the world is coming online for some basic level of economic and social security, and Western societies, and particularly the United States, are going to have to share more than we have shared before, which means that our standard of living is going to go down. I mean, there's a certain amount of resources, and we have whole societies with millions and millions and millions of people who need to live at a level that's beyond subsistence. Many of them are continuing not even to reach the level of subsistence. You know, people are still starving or dying of malnutrition. So we are going to be part of the sharing whether we like it or not. It's going to happen because of the global economy. That's part of it. What mood we do this sharing in will be very important. If we go into this sharing with a bad attitude, we'll turn rather foul. And the sharing begins in our own country. Just as after World War II, Lee, you were describing the social welfare response. If we can't share here in Vermont, then where can we share?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if kids are going hungry in Vermont, as they are, if kids are not getting health care in Vermont as they are, then how are we going to be able to do it for folks who we can't see? It's a real test of our morality, and how we fare remains to be seen. You know, it's ironically, my friend Don Horenstein taught me this. With the creation of the National Institutes of Health, right, publicly funded institution, we got fundamental basic support that went into the kind of product development in the pharmacological industry that allowed them to reap incredible profits. The public sector, what creating the public sector with the New Deal and after World War II with, for example, the GI Bill did was to stimulate the economy and to enable private business to thrive. By strangling the public sector, the right has now strangled the economy. And it gets more and more brittle. You know what I mean?
I'm curious what our responses will be here from our sisters and brothers in Vermont. I don't hear many people phoning in and adding to what you're saying, Josh.
Well,
The number's on the screen.
I'm sorry?
The phone number is on the screen.
Okay. If you want to call us, you can.
What else would you like to talk about later?
Well,
what do you think relations are now between Jews and the Christian world? You think,
in general,
you think they're better or worse than they were 30 years ago?
good question. I have a very positive attitude about it. I don't feel comfortable without having Jews around. I feel alone and destitute and abandoned if there are no Jews around, because they've been a brave group of people who have spoken out for the poor and the what's the word?
The oppressed.
Oppressed. And
yet, in some ways, relationships between Jews and the Catholic Church, and Jews and mainstream Protestants, these relationships are strained today.
strained.
Strained. The relationships are strained around the attempt by some within the Roman Catholic Church to make a saint of a pope whose actions or inactions during World War II are questionable. And relations with mainstream Protestants have been strained around politics in the Middle East, Israel and the Palestinians.
So what do you say, Josh?
I think this work needs to be done there too. I think here again you see how the center has been divided. The differing views between the mainstream Jewish community, which affirms the right of a woman to control her own reproductive system, and the Catholic Church, which sees that right as a sin, that right to choose. That's put distance between us. I think we're getting to a dangerous place around the peace process, where the hardliners on both the Israeli and Palestinian side are ruling the process and making it impossible to get to a two-state solution. I think the very existence of a Jewish state of Israel has been called into question by some, not only on the left, but also within the liberal Christian community. And this has put distance between us. Another manifestation of the divide in the center that endangers us. I think we need to keep talking about these issues. I've been to Palestine. I've been right outside of Nablus with olive farmers, Palestinian olive farmers, and I know the struggle that they have with hateful Jews who are trying to settle up there. I've been in a house in East Jerusalem when the municipality of Jerusalem came to demolish it. I know the pain on the Palestinian side, and I try to reflect that both in the Jewish community and in the larger community. I'm not sure that enough people in the liberal and left community in the United States, including within liberal Christian circles, are aware of the pain of Jews living in Israel, the fear that they have of ultimately of being attacked by Iran, the fear that they have of missiles coming from Gaza. I understand why many Israeli voters are reluctant to allow for a Palestinian state that they fear will become a ground for the firing of missiles directly into Israel. I see both sides, and here again, I think what's needed is strong political leadership. I hope that President Obama will hold the ground he has staked out in this struggle, in trying to bring Israelis and Palestinians together, because the Israelis and the Palestinians ultimately are pawns in a much larger struggle. And it's, ultimately it's a struggle between love and hate. There has yet to be a commitment to peace from the other Arab nations, which I think keep this Palestinian-Israeli divide alive, to keep the Jews available as a scapegoat to maintain their own power. And some of these Arab countries are the allies of the United States. I would like to see the Saudis step forward and really assert the need for peace and put their money where their mouth is when it comes to that, rather than supporting the continued propaganda in the Arab press and in the Palestinian press that is vile hatred of Jews. Vile hatred of Jews. Never in my life, until maybe the beginning of this millennium, have I experienced that kind of hatred of Jews. Are there Jews who are full of hate? Yes, Jews are human beings, and we have those who fall prey to hate. But if you really want peace, you don't end up condemning only one side in this, as some do. If you want peace, you have to help the parties who are separated come together, not increase the hate.
Thank you, Judge, for being so honest and direct.
It's my nature.
Thanks be to God.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Thanks be to God. I don't hear anyone else speaking here very much.
Well, I got my hands full just within my own congregation lately.
Anyone else want to say something?
We haven't gotten any phone calls. I would be interested, what part of the conflict that you were just describing so intensely is cultural as opposed to choice? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, yes and no, because hatred's a slippery slope. Hatred is a slippery slope. First of all, when the state of Israel was created in 1948, the interests of Israelis was less in religious Zionism than in creating frankly, a socialist state. And it's no accident that the city that grew into a metropolis was Tel Aviv, on the coast, not Jerusalem. The divide between Arabs and Jews was a divide over land. Bad enough, but a divide over land. It has become a religious battle. And once you get into a religious battle, your capacity for compromise lessens. The triumphalists on both sides take control. To my mind, Jerusalem needs to be shared. That's a no-brainer. Jerusalem needs to be shared. How Jerusalem is to be shared, I leave up to the experts. There are plenty of experts who know how to share Jerusalem. The right of Jews to rebuild a synagogue in the Jewish quarter of the old city is deep and non-negotiable. And for Palestinians in the last couple of days to have protested the celebration of the rebuilding of these synagogues, which were destroyed by the Jordanians, after they captured the old city and it became part of Jordan after 48. The right of Jews to live in the land of Israel is not negotiable. Jerusalem needs to be shared. I have a real problem with the notion that Jerusalem belongs only to the Jewish people. At the same time, it becomes very difficult to make such a statement when enemies of Israel, not only of Israel but of Jews, begin to talk about all of the land of Israel belonging to Palestine, to Arabs. So it's a very confused political situation.
Why are people so reluctant to speak the truth?
Because people are afraid. People are afraid. I saw a movie on TV the other night about a terrorist. And this woman who is, I guess, trying to catch him. I don't know. I didn't see the whole movie. Asks him why he's doing what he's doing. And he says, well, we need to make people afraid. Why do we need to make people afraid? We need to make people afraid because when people become afraid, they're willing to resort to violence. And only through violence will we get the destruction that will clear the way for a new order. Now, not too many people will say it as boldly as that. But a lot of people will abide that kind of thinking. A lot of people in the Arab world abide that kind of thinking. Abide the use of Islam for that purpose, when Islam is a glorious tradition that knows the ways of peace. But the world ultimately is going to have to choose between violence and nonviolence as a way to solve problems.
It's awful.
Because the weapons have gotten so terrible. The weapons have gotten so terrible that if we persist in abiding their use, they will be the Frankenstein monster that devours the people who created them. We will lose control of these weapons. And that's what we're afraid of right now. Somebody planting a dirty bomb of nuclear or biological or chemical materials somewhere. I think we've been very fortunate that we haven't seen that. We still haven't accounted for all of the nuclear material that was left when the Soviet Union dissolved. We're living in dangerous times, and most of the time we don't realize that because it's hard to afford to realize that. It's hard to live that way. I mean, I'm not constantly aware of that threat. I couldn't live if I were. And yet we need voices describing things for what they are, saying the truth about where things are. even if they're voices in the wilderness. Look at Jeremiah. Imagine being Jeremiah in 586 BCE. There's a wonderful book, Hearken Unto the Lord. I forget who wrote it. The same guy who wrote the 40 Days of Musa Dag about the Armenian genocide, if I may use that word. And I mean, Jeremiah, who came along and I believe had the same spiritual innards as that other preacher who came along, Rabbi, you call him Jesus of Nazareth. I think Jeremiah had the same understanding of the spirituality of the kingdom of God.
5 minutes.
And Jeremiah was telling them that a far worse story than I'm telling. A far worse story. He was telling them that they were going to lose Jerusalem. But that they would return. Imagine the depths of the courage of that man. Rabbi Wall loved Jeremiah. I love Jeremiah. Jeremiah stands as a witness to the ability of humans to speak the truth in the face of power, even when the power is overwhelming. I think all of the great prophets come to teach us that fortitude. That's another reason why we need to hold on to these religious traditions and not give them to the religious bigots, and cede their wisdom to people who are not going to teach it. What would Martin Luther King Jr. say today about what's going on? What would he say? I mean, he would have a clear message of the power of nonviolence. And he would lead us to using nonviolence, militant nonviolence, to pull the world together. The fact is that the world has become so violent that nonviolent protest is very hard to sustain. The media got tired of nonviolent protest. They make fun of it. They make fun of sit-ins. Sit-ins have become a cliche. We need to reinvest the power to militant nonviolence as a way to getting a handle on the grief and hatred of our time.
Well, Josh, you have really opened our minds to reality, and it's not easy to hear what you say, but I think it's true, and we have to follow our instinct and our history so that it's a reality.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to share with you today.
Our time is up. Our time is up. But are you open for further conversation, Josh?
Sure, I'd like to hear some other voices, though.
I would too. I would too. Anyone else?
Thank you for being here.